But I think it began with the trip that I took to Kashmir in 2014, which is the first trip after 24 years of leaving that place, which made me really think. And, before that, I had absolutely no idea. That's why there was no, a lot of footage that I've shot is from my sister's handycam, which I've used because it was not a plan. But I think that trip, where I actually saw my parents so openly talking to everyone and feeling like this is where they really belonged, which I don't think has happened in any other city in India. They've lived in Delhi and Bangalore, and so just watching them there, being so comfortable, being at ease, and just being themselves, and even for me, it was this language that everyone was speaking, which I had never, only people at home would talk. And here I was in a place where I understood everyone. I could relate to everything they were saying, whether it was just, the sense of humor and just words, these things that only in your language and with people you kind of understand. So, and also when I obviously asked him to take us there to the area, at least where the house was, he didn't take us. So I really came back with that feeling that I want to understand why, and why am I not in that place where I should have been. So I just kind of held on to that feeling, and one thing led to another, and it was a very gradual process. And I always thought, I'll make like a short film or some going back home type of a video to just share with my family. I never really thought that it will turn into this film, because I think in this whole process, I also was learning and unlearning and discovering so much, which I had never made an effort to do, honestly, before that. So in that sense, it was an accidental film, but I'm very glad it happened.
Accidental film. Yeah. Urvashi obviously knew that a film was being made, but what about the others, your parents? Did they know that the film was being made? Were they aware that there was filming going on? Because some of it is.
Yeah, I mean, I told them that I want to do something about just the house, because even in my head, I did not have, I think also it came together on the edit with Khushboo, where we really scratched, it was, and went underneath the whole thing. So it was, I just thought I'll shoot some interviews. Let me see where I get this. That's why it was very slow. And as and when I could shoot, I was taking her interview, then going back to Bombay and, going about with my life and coming back. So, but what I realized was that when I tried to interview my mother, she just did not talk. A lot of elders did not open up at all. So, I just realized that it is very tough for some people to talk about that. Even my Masi in the film just did not come to the point where she could have said how and what happened, and what the trauma that she's been carrying. But she just mentioned about the snow and rivers, and the, like, something really, I'm sure it was all that also was special, but she did not ever open up about her pain. And even my mother did not talk. When the only time she's spoken is when she knew that she didn't know the camera was on. Literally, Amit, who was my DP, left the camera on and went out of the room, and she was just watching the edit with Khushboo, my editor. And that's the only bit of thing that I could get from her. Even the uncle who I spoke to, that was a very initial reaction he had on the phone call. But after that, when I tried to ask him something more, he didn't talk. So I think it was that generation which has really, which didn't want to open up.
You were, in a sense, unencumbered by that kind of pain, because it was part of your personal memory, and therefore you felt. I suppose that is also the reason why you felt you had to make the film and sort of explore what that history was about as a person.
Yeah, also because like, I just didn't remember. Also, like, even for my sisters, when they talk about it, they remember a lot, very clearly they have, but I don't have those memories. That's why also when I go to Kashmir, I'm very fearless. I go there with any, I don't sense any fear or anything. But if it is different for them, for sure, I feel, I mean, at least it was when we went there.
I was just asking Urvashi if you had anything to add to what she just said about how this film came about. We will, of course, very soon open this to everybody who's come here. But before that, is there something you want to say about this journey that was undertaken?
Yeah, as Madhu said,
one thing led to the other. Our journey back home after 25 years, you carry everything with you, the tangibles, the intangibles, so much. And somewhere down the line, as life goes on, you place them in certain pockets, right? And they remain there. But um, going back, and it's like almost returning to nothing, right? I mean, you're returning, but you're returning to nothing. And that's a very brutal, but a very beautiful feeling at the same time. You have it, but you don't have it. You know, it's a it's it's a loss of something which is very close to you, but is still yours. You know, it's something in between, which we hold very close. And I think that's precisely why we are talking and we are doing something about it, even in little bits and pieces. Some interviews, which have come together, stitched up in such a way. And I think Khushboo has done a beautiful job, because she I had memories, Madhu had borrowed memories, but Khushboo stitched them as our memories together, something seen and unseen. And that's a beautiful job Khushboo has done. So, yes, it's a film which is a personal journey in many ways, but at the same time, a journey of many like us in that sense.
Thank you, Urvashi. So it's open to everybody. If someone like to ask a question or say.
It's really beautiful film, but
Thank you.
anything changed after 19 when this thing is, they removed the 370, any changes now? Can you be Pandit will go back?
No, nothing of that sort has happened.
No change in Kashmir.
No, I mean, there were a lot of promises that were made, and it's been happening to Pandits for a long time by many parties and whoever is in power, but there has been no road to rehabilitation or even justice to any of the crimes that have happened. So I think now it is still, there are some old cases that are being opened up, but in terms of going back and rehabilitating them, no, nothing concrete has happened yet.
Thanks for the film.
Thank you.
And it's a very well edited film. So the question is to Khushboo, what were the challenges while you were editing the film? What were the most difficult parts really to be in?
Okay, thanks first of all, Urvashi Didi and Madhu, for always being so kind to me on the film. To be honest, when I met Madhulika, the thing that fascinated me was that she did not remember her own home, and she did not even have a single photograph. And I've been very attached to my own childhood home, and now I only remember it through photographs. So I think what really struck me was the complete absence of image, and sort of the loss of that, to not to only have something imagined, but you don't know how to imagine it. So I think the challenge for me, was that I was very unaware of the Pandit history when I got into it. I had to do a lot of learning and unlearning. And then considering the history that we were confronted with and its own complexities, how to make it a film that talked about loss, that did not try to do anything else, that did not try to make it something it wasn't, or make it less or more. I mean, it's so full of feeling, the loss of home, the idea that you lose your home, and the fact that so many people have stopped connecting to that idea or empathizing with that idea, and they've decided, like Didi said, to put it in a certain pocket and not deal with it as the loss it is. So I think that was the challenge for me, first to learn myself, and then to constantly be aware that this is a loss whose echo we all have the ability to feel. But as a viewer, you should be able to empathize with the facts of the situation. This is what has happened, and the fact that it is not something that stopped after one generation. And for me, that is what Madhu's story was so striking, that how loss transfers intergenerationally. You don't even know sometimes what you don't know, and that was very striking. So how to kind of be able to communicate all that, I suppose that was tough. And of course, that I was dealing with very personal, very precious memories. So to always be careful around that, because it's precious. I hope that helps you and answers your question.
No, so basically, the house was burned down, and this house had been made by someone else now on that property. So after leaving from Kashmir, eventually, like all Pandits, had to sell whatever land and homes they had to get some money to start. So that's what our family did as well. So they had to sell it. Once it was completely burned down, a lot of houses were burned down in that area. So, yeah.
But that land is still here.
No, we don't own that land. It's gone. It's with someone else. Someone else lives there. It's someone else's house there. The family that we show, it's their house now.
I was just, I wanted to ask, since we have been, pretty much bystanders to this whole situation, and Madhulika's film, I feel personally that it addresses not all, but like quite a few angles to this whole, to what happened, apart from what we see. And since then, a lot of things have happened, of course, and a lot of content has come out, which sometimes can tend to be selective with what is shown. So do you have any feelings about that kind of stuff that's coming out, or maybe not? I just wanted to know both your opinions on that, since you've been a part of it, since you've witnessed all that happened.
Yeah. See, I feel content, all content, whether this or that, must surface so that anyone can understand by their own means how to take the ultimate truth. It's important to understand. See, our journey, if you look at it, it's pure loss. Now what were the reasons for that loss? We haven't gone much into that, because that was not our point. Our point was purely to focus on the loss, and loss has happened not just this side, the other side has suffered too, in many different ways. Now we can debate about it and question things. Those are immaterial. The point is, there is immense loss. The fact that it's been, I can talk about myself, the fact that it's been 32 years, and I just dream about my home. I feel a nomad all the time. I have immense respect for all the places that have given me shelter, provided me shelter. But when you suffer something which is as traumatic as this, you never stand still, and we should understand loss in those pure terms. The minute we associate a certain shade to it, it then becomes nullified. My point is that content should come out, content of all kinds, so that everyone is able to take an informed position. We seldom take informed position because we tend to, digress. But the point is, then you're not making an informed choice, or your choice or your position is not informed, right? So I have immense humility. I understand the pain of all, because I've gone through it. We have gone through it as a family, as people, and I don't associate one content should overpower the other. These are truths, We have to take it the way it is given to us and make our own choices and judgments about it. Now one can say, one can question the truth. Now, then it doesn't remain a truth for them, but it's still my truth, right? So I don't know whether I answered your question correctly, but that's my position on it.
Thank you. This was a really very, very absorbing film, really held the attention from the word go to the word to the end, and really well made. So congratulations, all of you. My question is, I think everyone in the generation that lived through the trauma didn't speak about it. And now when I think back, I have friends who are Kashmiris and they never spoke about it till the time, now in our WhatsApp groups, some polarizing conversation takes place. And the only comment I hear from them is, you guys didn't live through the time in 1990, which we lived through and which we went through. So, and they still don't open up and talk about it. So why do you think it is? Is it that they don't want to let their children live through a trauma like that? Is it because they just don't want to hurt themselves more than they've already been hurt? Did you try and delve a little bit into that, which is not really part of the film, but otherwise?
I think it is definitely true that generation, I think, when they left, they were only focusing on rebuilding their life and their children's life. So while we were growing up, we didn't discuss it much. And I think there was still a lot of fear to talk about it openly. And the fact that anytime people did talk about it, I do feel that the media did not give it the kind of attention it should have got. People were not talking about it. There was a complete whitewash of facts. And there were extreme human rights violations, but they did not get a voice. There was nobody talking till, a certain generation of, say, my sister grew up, and then the writers came and wrote a book about it, which came in like 2013, which was the first book which talked about it openly. And it was a memoir by a person who left when he was 14. So I think for a lot of time, there hasn't been enough discussion about it, even in my college when I was growing up. If I would talk about it, Kashmir has been viewed by only from, with a very selective and from one prism. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but you have to look at, if it's a conflict, everyone suffers. So you have to talk about everyone. And when people did try to talk, nobody was listening. So I think somewhere they really, the hurt kept building up, and they're like, no one's going to listen, till it has now resurfaced. But I still feel that particular generation of my aunt and all are just, they can't openly talk about it. And I've spoken about this to even, some people who have discussed partition with their parents, and or the 84 riots. And, every time we were talking the same thing, our fathers especially do not want to talk about it, and what is it that keeps them so, I'm sure obviously it is traumatic, but a lot of them are just not, they don't want to talk about it. And, it is very difficult to get that generation to open up and speak freely about it, the way we can now today communicate, and, we have a point of view. But I think they didn't have a voice that they needed, I think.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, Urvashi, please go ahead.
See, the fact that many even ask me now, okay, but आपने क्यों नहीं बोला? I think हमने बोला, बहुत बार बोलने की कोशिश की, but nobody heard us. At least I can I mean, with respect to my parents and that generation who got busy in building lives, making sure that their children are, educated, and they provide for them. That was their sole motive. But I was I was an adolescent, and growing up with that trauma and then talking about it endlessly to many of my, say, in my circles and other people would question it, saying, really, is that what happened? ऐसा हुआ था? अच्छा, हमने तो ये सुना था दंगे फसाद हुए थे इसलिए आप भाग के आ गए. And there was nothing for me to, it was almost that I have to show an evidence of that. And I think what happens when a story is told very tenderly, nobody listens to you, or nobody pays much attention. But it requires something more traumatic to make people just stop and take an account of what happened. It's not that we didn't say, it's not that we didn't speak. We did speak. It's just that nobody was ready to hear us out. And it took now 32 years plus for people to even acknowledge. And even now, we are questioned. And that's the most traumatic thing. You, after 32 years, that too, you're questioning something like this. I mean, क्या चीज क्वेश्चन कर रहे हो आप? हमारा घर जलना या हमारा वहां से निकल आना? It's not just you lose a shelter, you lose every little bit of that ecosystem which shapes you, which builds not just you as a growing child or a growing adolescent. It shapes all those who were my parents, were my grandparents. Unka, I mean, a man of 75 years, my grandfather, he came to when he left, he came to our door, and these were his words. He said, please forgive me, I'm coming to your house because I lost my shelter. And he couldn't bear the trauma. He passed away in a few months' time. And his last words were, I lost my nest and I lost my nest. अब ये टेस्टिमनीज हमको देनी पड़ रही है हर पॉइंट पे कि नहीं हमारे साथ हुआ, नहीं ये सच है. कब तक बोलते हैं? And after a point you stop. After a point I stopped, because I felt ridiculed when somebody told me, a narrative which is built around that somebody like a Jagmohan, or I mean that's a popular narrative that आपको तो किसी ने निकाला. सच में एक पूरी कम्युनिटी को कोई ऐसे निकाल देता है और बोलता है कि आप चले जाइए यहाँ से. You leave everything. I mean, it's bizarre. Not that we didn't tell our stories. We did tell our stories. लेकिन सुनने वाला कोई नहीं था. हमें रिप्रेजेंट करने के लिए कोई नहीं था, अनफॉर्चुनेटली. बट इंडिविजुअली भी कोई सुनने वाला नहीं था. Sorry. And to say that many of our elders, even now, are going through extreme trauma-related diseases, those which we had never heard of. Dementia, people are dying of Alzheimer's, dementia, my own aunt also. Nahi tha, these things were unknown. What took its toll for them? They buried it in, because after a point it was about their pride, which they never wanted to leave, because we held our heads high. And we went through it. We went through it. We probably, people say that, you're resilient enough. I think that has to be questioned now. But anyways, that's a different debate. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, just.
Okay. So I think it's an ongoing conversation. So not to defend the guys, but I think content is always based on a certain point of time. So I think a gentleman asked, why are these movies coming out now? Sir, I'll just like to draw your attention. There's a conversation we were having that the movies on the Holocaust, they never really came out for the first 20 or 30 years after the Holocaust. It took a bit of while for people to come to terms with it. In fact, if you remember, the peak of the Holocaust movies was during the 90s and 2000s. The first 20, 30 years, no one could talk about it. But anyway, I think it's a conversation we can all have later. To the ladies on the stage, I wanted to ask you, one of the scariest lines in the movie was where I think the shopkeeper said that the youngsters don't even believe there were Hindus anywhere. I think that was pretty scary. So how can we have this conversation with the local Kashmiris? How do you tell them that, hey, this happened and society was like this at one point of time? Is that even possible, or can it be done?
I think things have changed in last few years. I would say there is an entire generation of even Kashmiri Pandits who are trying to reconnect, who grew up, were born after 90, basically, in 95. So I think the conversation has just started, but it will take effort from both sides, I think. So I think films, books, more interactions and addressing, I think I just feel that it has started, but it's not really out there right now. But and I think they're aware that some Pandits were there, and they are, of course, Kashmiris and very much part of it. I don't know. I think it just needs more interaction and openness from both sides to first acknowledge. Many times when I go there to Kashmir, and even little kids sometimes tell me, but aap to bhag gaye, like I've had like random kids telling me this. I'm like, who's feeding you this wrong information, first of all, So I think a lot of unlearning has to happen on both, and learning has to happen on both sides to just engage in a conversation. And I think it's gradually starting with things now. But I hope it goes further. Yeah.
The engagement is possible when the ground is made up of truth, right? So acceptance of what happened in the way it happened. Like newer generations are not to be blamed for that, right? But the fact that there is an acceptance of truth is very important, because then only there is a possibility of healing in the true sense. Otherwise, it doesn't take place. We engage, but eventually it's on the tenets of truth that a reconciliation of any sort, like, or even a dialogue, is possible, and when truth prevails. And I understand your question now with respect to the content, and how now the content is emerging. I think one, definitely social media, but second, yes, it does take time to internalize what happened, what prevailed. And then you internalize, and then when you bring out the body of that loss and that trauma out, and then you're able to articulate it in different forms, is when content emerges. And you're right in that sense. It takes time for the process of internalizing and then being able to bring it out in the way one would want. And that's why probably now the content is emerging in the way it should.
I mean, to be honest, when I was making this film, I didn't even know if anyone will watch it, because, even amongst my own friends and close people from film industry who, are more aware of, politically aware and generally, didn't know anything about it. And I had to like really explain it to them. And, I would feel like sometimes so confused that how do I begin? And, so it has really, now that the film is there and we have an audience here, it really is like people are engaging in a conversation at least. So this is a starter for me, personally. I feel like now I am not going again and telling but dekho, you need to go back and you need to know why I'm saying this, why I have a certain point of view and different things, so I think for us also, even as, like I told you, I always thought it will be a family video, something that I'll never put out in public. To put our personal story out there, being like shedding all inhibitions and putting yourself on camera and saying things, it has taken so long, even convincing my sister who's right now here, but to be on camera and saying all this took time, and to say, yes, this is our truth and I'm going to put it out there. Now people can take it in whatever way they want, but yeah.
There is, of course, a question of certain histories and certain narratives being erased by simply not being told. But I also think that this is both the question that you asked and is that there's a larger problem that we have also of a dehistoricized kind of that that the younger generation often does not know how things were, and we don't always make those connections, and we don't always, not just with respect to this history but also to other histories. So if the younger people don't know, then that's sort of sits in a larger kind of sociological context also here. There was one more question.
Hi. Well, I probably can't see me, but yeah. Yeah. One, of course, I mean, for me, I was seeing myself in you, Madhu, when you were like, it would be me if I was you, going and talking to my aunts and uncles and all that. So, of course, the storytelling, editing, people have already spoken about it, is very well done. But I think for me, I think it was very, very relatable from that point of view. Second is, I was about a year old when my dad was posted in Kashmir. I mean, he was posted in Srinagar. My father was in the Air Force. And I have very, very faint, I don't have any memories. When you spoke about borrowed memories, I think, I'm a sucker for nostalgia, and it just kind of, hits me hard. But my parents would tell me that I would always have apples in my hand, both my arms, and there's something, the fish is called something, and I would obviously, recite that word and these kind of things. But I don't have any memory as such. As an Indian, and when I watch, and I have a lot of Kashmiri friends as well who have told me these stories, or not stories, but their own experiences as to what has happened. And so for me, I feel that, I'm deprived of that paradise that people spoke about, right? So that agitates me in many ways. I mean, what I can do about it, what I cannot do about it, how much the government has a role to play, and so on and so forth. Like you said, this is just a starter and we're all talking about it, right? And I also have parallels of similar experiences I have friends from Palestine. And so they also have their stories to tell, and, so on and so forth. So while I feel this way, about what's happening, that, I'm deprived, for me, I wanted to ask you that, one, of course, you put your experiences there, you've made this film, but did you get the kind of closure that, I don't know if you were seeking a closure or not, but I think somewhere, kahin na kahin, we need some sort of a semblance, right? There is one point where it sort of sinks in. So do you think you've been able to, get that through this film or through this experience?
I don't think there's been a closure, for sure. In fact, it's only making me go deeper in going deeper into my roots, because this was just one part of my life, I think. But what it has given me is a lot of understanding of, like I always said, right, these are borrowed memories and I don't remember. Now I have my own memories and my own understanding of what it means to be a Kashmiri, what it means to belong to a land. And I'm just some of it more, I understand loss better. I understand, when you mention Palestine or any displaced community, I'm able to resonate, I'm able to understand the pain it comes with. So before making any comment, generally, or before, I really take time to process information. I really make an informed opinion. It has helped me just learn, evolve better in terms of, just understanding this whole complexity a bit better. But in terms of closure, no, because I still feel as uprooted as I was while making this film. It has given me some sort of a hope that I might be able to go back to Kashmir and, actually build a life there. I don't know if that's possible, but I really want to, in this lifetime, do that. And my family knows that every year I say this next year we'll be in Kashmir next year, which I don't, so yeah, I just think there's no closure, but maybe I'm on my way to it, but in a positive way. So
yeah, thanks. It's a really, really very powerful film.
Thank you.
And I'm thankful that you've made it now, because it seems like it's couldn't have been a better time, or maybe a worse time, for a film like this to be seen. And of course, the history of Kashmir is very particular and very specific. But I hope that you're able to take this film around and show it widely, because we seem to be at the threshold of many Kashmirs repeating themselves in every state in India. And I think the loss that you've portrayed and conveyed so powerfully, that can connect across religion, across caste, across language. And I hope that people realize that we will be responsible for causing multiple losses of the same magnitude if we don't stop things from going in the direction that they seem to be taking, and if we don't hold on to our secularism. So thank you for the film.
I absolutely agree with you on that. Thank you.
Beautiful film. Thank you so much for making it. And it's also such a personal story. I must admit, I really cried a lot, and it really touched me deeply. I think Khushboo's done a fantastic job of putting everything together. I was just curious that you work so closely with your family, right? Your sisters. What was that like? Like on a personal level, on an emotional level, how easy or how difficult was that?
I don't think it was easy working with Urvashi because I think I somewhere feel that they really didn't think that I will make a film or even something that would be worthwhile putting out there. To be honest, they really must have thought that I'm just on some, I shoot a lot when I'm traveling and stuff. So I think they really thought I'll just do some time pass with whatever. But I really had to convince them to open up, talk, please, because who else do I go to? So I had to really emotionally, I think, blackmail them at some point and I was very sure I'll keep this film just to my family. I'm not going to go outside to people I don't know, because then it wouldn't be personal. It wouldn't be the truth that I've grown up on. So obviously Urvashi is a larger part of the film, and I knew that she's the only one after my father who could have taken me there because of her connection being so strong with Kashmir, extremely, of course, emotional, but also just she really is very, very connected in that sense. And I knew that she's the one who will be able to explain, put things in perspective so much better the way I wanted to do it, So it took some time. I think it was very gradual, one by one. It was just say small interview, then questions, and then I said, let's just go and shoot. What will happen? Yeah, like we'll just just think of it as a trip. Because even when we were in Kashmir, and she might disagree right now, she was like, should we go? Are you sure? Should we just get out of the car? And I said, forget it, just go, nothing will happen, But she eventually, I think, came around and was a really important. Obviously, I couldn't have made it without my sister at all. So she really helped me understand my own journey on this film also, and my questions which I was asking, why am I struggling with these things personally? So also with the it's also been very emotional for her, extremely emotional, more emotional for her than me when I was in Kashmir, even when she was looking at this place and she said, oh, this is where the house was. At that point, I was just a spectator. I was just following her because I was not able to connect with, the excitement which she had, honestly, because for me, I was like, I just want to reach the house. And it actually made these conversations which she had with those people, so much more. I mean, that's when it comes across again, right? The ease with which you talk to those people. It does, I don't think it happens otherwise with anyone else. So yeah, I think once she was there and she knew that this is the place I'm comfortable with, then she opened up a lot, and eventually I kept the camera on.
There are, in every documentary, there are some moments that sort of what we call documentary moments. And clearly, this is something that many of you would have kind of responded to. But that moment, when everybody is sort of, in tears with that reunion with this lady in the house who now lives there and who is the, Muboli Behan, so to speak, of your father. And then it's such a tearful thing. And then she says,
bad luck,
and
3 daughters.
So, 3 daughters, and that you start laughing in the midst of those tears. It was
every time we would edit Khushboo and I would just die laughing. He said, we have to keep it. If we are laughing, I'm sure people.
There's someone at the back with a question. Yeah. Okay, we have finished time, but one last question.
Actually, I wanted to ask this question earlier. So my friend and I got out together. So I asked him this question. He didn't have an answer. So he asked me, go back and ask this question. Now we hear about Kashmiri Pandits. All of Kashmiri Hindus are all Pandits. We don't hear of the non-Pandits.
No, there are others as well. There are Rajputs as well. So which follow a similar tradition, but not exactly like Pandits. So of course, there are a lot of smaller minority communities in Kashmir.
Are they continuing there or?
No, most of them have moved to Jammu.
But ethnic minorities are Kashmiri Pandits. I mean, the original inhabitants, so to speak, if you see the indigenous community is Kashmiri Pandits, and we are usually, yes, most of us are 99% are Pandits.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I think our time is up, and thank you
very much.
Thank you, Madhulika, for the film. Thank you, Khushboo and Urvashi, for the film and for joining us today. And of course, thank you to all of you who came for the film, and of course to BIC who continue to generously give the space to us for our screenings. So
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.